Good morning, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion, the first of two today. I want to take a look at the morning situation going on here with 99L. First of all, you can clearly see a fairly vigorous and well-defined low-level circulation. One little area of convection associated with that at the moment. The rest of the deeper convection that developed overnight has been pushed away, and I will show you why that is the case in just a moment. First off, the vorticity signature actually looks perhaps the healthiest that it has thus far. Nice and round in its appearance, just a couple of extra lobes of energy sticking off of it, but overall a fairly healthy look to this. And that means that it's trying to bundle that energy together from that very large precipitable water package, whatever you want to call it, that envelope of energy that came off Africa several days ago. Now it's trying to consolidate. It's just clearly lacking the deep convection, and here's the reason why. You can clearly see on this particular wind chart that the center of circulation is located right in here somewhere, and the upper level winds are blowing right over the top of that. And so that is not healthy for development. It is decoupling the thunderstorms from the center of circulation. In fact, some of those upper level winds are going this way, and the center of circulation is up here, and that is not healthy. It is not until it reaches perhaps this vicinity that conditions will improve, as we see an upper level high and associated easterly wind flow pretty much at all levels blowing across Florida, through the Florida Straits, and into the Gulf of Mexico. So that brings me to the current models from the 12Z package of a ton of models here to look at. Fairly large spread in the overall guidance envelope here, and if you wanted to make a cone out of it, well, there you go. But what I want to look at here is a majority of these models here are starting to keep it either just into extreme South Florida or through the Florida Straits and into the central Gulf of Mexico. There are still some, maybe a third or so, that bring it right up into Florida in the peninsula. So we'll have to see if the westward bend here is a trend that is beginning, indicative of stronger ridging over the mid-Atlantic states and the western Atlantic Ocean. We'll have to wait and see about that as things progress when the 12Z, or morning runs, of the global models, namely the GFS, which continues to basically show this as a non-event, and the ECMWF, or people call it the Euro, which I'm going to show you next, which has been extremely consistent over the last few days of suggesting a tropical storm or a hurricane impacting Florida and or somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico. So again, from the fantastically talented Levi Cowan at tropicaltidbits.com programming his website to render the European maps so that we can take a look at those. Definitely want to give credit to that young man who's a student in meteorology down at Florida State University. Going to be an amazing talent one day. So here's the 0Z run of the Euro. What does that mean exactly, real quick? It basically means that the model was initialized at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, or what we refer to as 0 Zulu or 0 UTC, Universal Time Coordinate. It's just a way to, people who work in hospitals know all about that, the military, etc. It's a universally coordinated time, and so 0Z is the same for everybody. Okay, does that make sense? So the models get initialized based on data from a set of soundings, which are weather balloons and other instruments and satellite-derived data that get ingested to the global models with the start point of 0 UTC, or in this case, make it easy to understand, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So that's the 0Z model beginning, and last night, and this is the Euro run. By the way, that's only run twice a day at 0Z and 12Z. So here's what we had. This is the 24, this is the initialization. So here's what it showed last night, just sort of a bump in the isobars, pretty good initialization, moving out to 24 hours. So this would be valid tonight, Thursday night here, August 25th, and here it is down in the southeast Bahamas. pretty much well represented to what it is now, around 1,008 millibars, and that is what most of the surface observations are showing. Going out to 48 hours starts to strengthen just a little bit, perhaps, in the central Bahamas, but it's not until 72 hours that any appreciable intensification begins here in the northwest Bahamas near Andros Island, maybe a day or so just off the Florida coast. And then finally by 96 hours, there's that bend that it does to the west, and it's this fork in the road. Is it going to just come up the peninsula like I'm going to show you here in a moment it's going to try to do? Or does this area of high pressure up here, indicated by this darker red, this 594 height line, and the thicker atmosphere, keep this on a more westerly course with a potential landfall somewhere along the central Gulf Coast? We don't know the answer to that. The Euro solution from last night was to basically bring this across and then kind of up towards Appalachia Bay here and the Big Bend area of Florida, which in and of itself would be unpleasant, but the alternative, if this were to get even farther out into the ocean, could be more of an impact for the Gulf Coast, or it just doesn't develop at all like the GFS has generally been advertising. A very weak system and really not much to worry about. So the complexities of this certainly continue. Added to that, the 6Z, or 6 Zulu time, UTC, whatever you want to call it, run of the HWRF, which is the Hurricane Weather Research Forecast Model, developed specifically for tropical cyclones. That showed, when it finally picked it up as it was coming in through the Florida Straits basically, and developed it here at 96 hours into basically just about a hurricane. So, but this model has been waffling back and forth, dropping it, trying to find it in the model field, and then really not doing much with it. So the 6Z run was the first time in recent runs that this really picked up on it, and it strengthens it on its way to the north and west from there. No reason to really worry about that right now, because that is, certainly up in the air. That speculation that this may or may not even develop. That's the thing. But I'm going to tell you something. If we go back and look at this one more time before I sign off for now, again, this is a very decent area of energy in the atmosphere that has not given up, so to speak, yet. And when we look at that vorticity signature, it's easy to understand it's not weak like something out here, for example, or this. This has got a pretty good signature to it, and it's headed into an area where, generally speaking, from this point on, the upper level conditions should be more favorable. So my worry, as I've talked about, the longer it takes to develop, the less time there is to get ready. And if it were to rapidly feed back close to Florida and become even an 80-mile-per-hour hurricane, that's going to catch a lot of people off guard, many of whom have not even had a hurricane experience ever, because they've moved to South Florida within this last 10-plus years, pretty much 10.8 years since the last hurricane. So it's problematic for sure. If it's going to develop, go ahead and get it over with so people can focus on it and get ready. That's what I say. Otherwise, don't develop at all and just go away. So it's very complex. I will be back this afternoon with another look at the 12Z run of everything, probably between 4 and 5 o'clock Eastern time. I'll post that video, and of course you can watch that on YouTube. And we also have our app, Hurricane Impact, 2 words. Search for that in the App Store and on Google Play, and you can watch the videos there as well. They get posted instantly to our app the moment that I publish them to YouTube. All right, so there you have a look at this information here this morning. Interesting day ahead. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks as always for your time and your attention, and I'll be back with you again later this afternoon.